I'm not the house of cards that falls down easily. I'm strong enough to handle what you throw at me.
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I'm your host, Kristen Sunanta Walker. Just what are we going to discuss? The intimacy that is mental health. Let's continue to make it as comfortable as discussing brain health or heart health. This show has been on the air for several years and we have amazing co-hosts. And then we created a network of podcasters on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, a place where every possible facet of mental well-being can be talked about openly. My show, after several hundred interviews, the format is this: intimate, deep, funny, touching, sometimes uncomfortable, but always vulnerable conversations with interesting people. The goal is to have you, our listening family, many of you who have become my good friends, feel as though you are listening in on private conversations. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of this amazing journey with me, and now with our network of podcasters. Just knowing this podcast might be helping any of you realize you are not alone on this journey called being a human being makes doing this podcast worth every second.
After all, we promised we'd be cordial.
Okay, listeners, we have a great guest today. She is a comedian, among many other things that she will share with us. Her name is Allie Wolfe. And Allie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, many reasons why I wanted you to come on. Number one, I want to do the Zoom comedy show with you and Frank and Andy Forrester and possibly someone else. So we're going to get that set up. And the second reason was because as I was trying to get you scheduled for that, you let me know that you had COVID. You're now recovered, thank God, but you had COVID-19. And I wanted to, people are clamoring to know, what was it exactly like? What were some underlying symptoms that you had that could scare you about getting it, that kind of stuff. So start from the beginning.
Yeah.
But first, tell us what you do outside of, plus the comedy. Tell us what you do there.
Yeah, so I'm a comedian in Durango, Colorado, which is a small mountain town. I'm actually a college student right now at Fort Lewis, going on 6 years, so I'm doing really well there. And I do political advocacy. I just finished an internship where I lobbied for demilitarization of police for a year across Colorado. And yeah, just trying to finish getting my degree, doing comedy. I just gave a TED talk about failure well, that didn't go well. 10 a.m. right now is really early for me.
Right. Comedians are used to staying up late.
My TED talk was about stand-up comedy as exposure therapy to failure for my anxiety disorder.
I love
and I'm someone who has Thank you. And I'm someone who has bipolar, depression, and anxiety, which is something I talk about a lot in my comedy, because I think that transparency is really important.
Absolutely. And for those of us in the know, because we're in the field, bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, if you feel comfortable sharing.
Oh, of course. I always forget bipolar 2, the less severe one.
Yes, that's bipolar 2. Yeah. I was diagnosed with that too in my late 20s or early 30s. It turned, it could have been correct, but none of the medication that they gave me for the manic stuff worked, and our SSRIs worked without it. So then they decided, oh, maybe it's not bipolar. Who knows? All I know is that lithium wanted me to eat so much that I wanted to eat my own arm. It was horrifying.
Oh my God, I know. I've finally figured out the cocktail that's right for me, but it's taken like years and years and years,
It
know,
does.
and it's tough right now. Like having had COVID, not being able to go get my meds, like thankfully I have enough, but I can't imagine if I didn't, or if I didn't have somebody to pick it up for me, like what that would do to me.
Oh yeah. I thought about that too. Like what would I do without my free state? It would not be good for the world, and it wouldn't be good for me, nor the animals that live in my home with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, my cat and I are barely on speaking terms right now.
So when did you get diagnosed with this, and what were the initial things you noticed that made you think something's not right?
So I actually never had a test done so I'm a presumed case because I live in a rural county
Mm-hmm.
and there's such a serious shortage of tests that people without really that aren't at risk of actually dying of it aren't able to get tested. I even at some point, my shortness of breath and fever were so severe that I went to the ER and they basically were like, all right, go back home.
Yes, we are working from home, folks, because there goes the dogs. Anyway.
My cat's going to at some point, so don't worry. But anyway, they said that they only had tests for those who were admitted, and they were really only admitting those who were going to possibly die from it. And he said people only with lower than an 85% oxygen rate were being admitted, which is incredibly low.
Yeah.
So there's a really serious shortage of tests in my county. There's 23 confirmed cases, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot higher than that. But it all started when I have some other health stuff going on. So I was actually at the hospital getting a test done, and they were screening everybody just for a fever before you went in. And I'd been honestly, I thought I had been super hungover because I just didn't feel good at all. Like that just general, like horrible feeling. I had a bad headache and I just felt awful. And then I had a fever when I went to the hospital. And so I got home and kept taking my temperature. And within the next few days, I got really severe shortness of breath, which I also have asthma. So that was a little scary.
Yeah.
And, sore throat, dry cough, really everything you've heard. But I was just surprised at first that it was like something I had experienced before, like a really bad hangover or a really bad flu.
Okay. Meaning you wouldn't otherwise know that it was something different.
Yeah. Yeah. When I had a fever, I made them recheck it because I was like, I don't think that's right. And they were like, no, I had like 101 fever at the hospital. And it stayed pretty consistently high for at least a week and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a little bit rough.
Were you sweating through your sheets?
Now.
Were you sweating through your sheets?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was awake like 4 hours a day, maybe.
Oh, okay. A lot of sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, you woke up, opened a can of cat food, dumped it on the floor and said, go, and then went back to bed.
Exactly. Were you here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And thankfully, I live with my girlfriend, and she was so incredible, and I can't imagine if I had been in a different situation. Like, I think about people who are unhoused right now or in prisons or in detention centers, and that is like unfathomable to not have that kind of support.
Yeah, exactly. How, with the shortness of breath, having asthma, what that feels like, but was this different than the asthma shortness of breath, or the same?
It was different. I don't have very severe asthma. So I haven't had an asthma attack in like a year probably. And I just could not catch my breath. It took me a while to take it seriously. I thought I just like had a little flu or something because I do have anxiety. And usually my anxiety manifests in shortness of breath and chest pressure. So I was really hesitant to bring it up to the doctor because I was like, I'm just being dramatic. I'm just anxious today.
Right.
But then it was for a long time. But it was like a pressure. It felt like somebody was sitting on my chest.
Did you at any point, wake up with those night terrors that included, in your case, sweat? But did you wake up and think, oh my God, I have this and I'm going to die, or anything like that?
You know what? No, which is kind of surprising. I feel like with anxiety, it always has you playing worst case scenario in your head.
Yeah.
So in some sense, like I was ready. But it was kind of hard for me to panic because the people around me were panicking so much, like my parents and my girlfriend, that I think I just my natural response was to be the protector and downplay things. So I was like, guys, it's fine. And after a while, I just kind of convinced myself. But the day that I went to the ER, it was tough because I was like shaking uncontrollably because I had such a high fever. and just could not breathe. And that was the scariest day. But then when I was at the ER, they were just like, well, we're not that worried. So that was kind of
Oh, wow.
both like helpful and not helpful, you know?
How was it? I mean, you go to the hospital. So how long was it before you started to notice symptoms that you actually went to go to the hospital?
How long? Oh, the first time I went to the hospital for my test?
Yeah, like the first time, like from when you knew something's not right, I'm not feeling well, to that first trip to the hospital.
It was probably about a week
Okay.
in between there, because it just kept getting worse. It was not getting any better. Yeah.
Did they give you any antibiotics, like a Z-Pack or anything?
They did, because I'd had pneumonia about a month before, and they were like, maybe it's probably not, but it could be a continuation of that. So they did that just in case. And that actually, I mean, maybe it was psychosomatic and maybe it was like winding down by that point, but I feel like it helped a little.
Okay. It was kind of weird because my ex, somewhere in February, I don't remember at this point because all the days bleed together, but
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
he's like, we call him Timex or Mr. Samsonite, because you can throw him out a window and he'll survive it. But he got sick, and we're used to him, getting ill and stuff. So we were like, okay, well, it's another illness. And then he went to the doctor, and they were like, well, you have pneumonia. And this is before this all became well known. It was whatever time in February before we really started to, know what was going on. And he came back home and he said, you're not going to believe this, but I have pneumonia. And all of us were shocked, like, what? So we kind of, but he had the same thing, loss of sense of taste and smell, and sleeping all the time, and chills with a fever and all this stuff. And, but he said the same thing, that Z-Pack really helped.
Yeah, I was surprised that it actually helped. I thought that they were just kind of placating me at first and were like, here's something, but it really did. Again, I don't know if it was just winding down already by that point, but I don't know, 2 weeks of feeling like that was a long time, Yeah. I have some chronic health issues, none that like compromise my immune system, but like chronic migraines and things like that. So I'm like, it takes a lot for me to go to the hospital,
Right.
So it was also, the doctors, the masks they were wearing, they looked like they were about to defuse a bomb.
Really? Oh, so they're the huge, like European old-fashioned movie gas mask when the Germans come or something. Yeah.
It was wild. Yeah. It was like a little bit concerning, and they put me in a room and wouldn't even let me leave to go to the bathroom because they were scared I was going to infect the hospital, which is totally valid, but it was really surprising.
How did you, did they have to do catheter? I mean, how did you get to go pee? I
just didn't have to pee, thank God. I was only there for about an hour because they were just like, we have 2 ventilators left. And I wasn't in need of it. And they were like, we can't admit you. So good luck, go home. Right. That's the scary thing, is that that's what it is. Our healthcare system, this whole flattening the curve has been to, obviously to help save lives and not spread the infection, but even more so, it's been about our healthcare system is not ready to handle the onslaught of this. I mean, that's the bigger. It was pretty discouraging, honestly. Like, because they told me that if the only reason to come back would be if I was so out of breath that I couldn't take more than 2 steps without feeling like I was going to pass out, which is a really, really extreme standard, And that was scary to me, to be like, okay, how am I going to know when it's at that point? When should I take it seriously? Or when am I going to feel dramatic for coming back and then do the same thing? Which I'm not blaming them. Obviously, like, they are doing what they can right now, and I appreciate it so much. The nurses told me that they couldn't take off their masks at all during their shift, which meant they can't drink water and they couldn't eat during their 12-hour shift. Oh my God. See, this is the kind of stuff that people need to
here. I mean, we do have some nurses and plenty of MDs on on my podcast network, but one of them that does a show called Take a Shift, she and her partner are both nurses, and she's like, by the end of the day, the only masks that they have access to are the paper ones that are typical standard white masks. She's, at the end of the day, you're sweating so bad and everything, it's like having wet cement plastered on your face.
Oh God, that's horrible.
And the part of that that's bad is once they get wet, because we also have a infectious disease expert, Dr. David Vigorist, who said, the wetness is the problem.
Right.
So the minute that mask gets wet, it should be gone and replaced with a new mask, but they don't have enough. So it's just,
right.
It's freaky. It's freaky.
Yes. When we got to the hospital, there's no chairs in the waiting room or anything. And again, we're in a rural county in Colorado, so it's not a huge hospital or anything. But when we got there, they made us park, and then they brought us one mask only for me. They didn't have one for my girlfriend too. And then they just made us go inside and then just stand like in a corner and wait.
Wow.
So that we wouldn't infect other people. But my girlfriend surprisingly hasn't really gotten sick.
Good.
Which I'm confused about, but really happy about.
Right. Well, it's interesting too. Some people are just completely asymptomatic. They get it and they don't even know.
Right. Yeah. And she had just traveled too, right before everything started. So.
Well, she could have given it to you and been asymptomatic,
Right.
You never know.
That's part of it too, is that like I felt so much guilt initially because I was like, when did I get it? How long have I had it? Where did I go when I had it? And like, who did I give it to? And that's been the biggest component of me for it mentally, I think.
Yeah. And I know you just listened to the show I did with Frank King about how he was treated after coming off of a cruise ship where he was working. And
oh my gosh.
It was unreal to me. And that was, just as all of this was really starting to, it wasn't the start of the sickness, but it was, as the world starts to pay attention to it. And it's better for him now, but he still has people that troll him and say that, he's the reason why there have been deaths in Seattle and Oregon. And, he's like, was I driving around like spraying through a sprayer on everyone? And he tested negative.
Right. And he was cleared at multiple points.
Yep.
So yeah, I actually haven't, beyond the people who needed to know, like my family and my school and my partner, obviously, I haven't really told anyone that I had it, just because I think that there is a big stigma around it, and I didn't want to until I was clear of it. So I've kind of been keeping it on the down low, but also my dad tweets about it to legislators every day. So he's been kind of putting it out there.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah, I worry about that. I worry about that where I live because I moved in the midst of all this. I move on March 4th to a new place. What a time.
Oh gosh.
I had to, but it's been, interesting because I'm out in the middle of the country or, way out in the country. And, no one really, other than people that are like the Krispy Kreme donut delivery guy to Food Lion was wearing a mask, but nobody else, I'm starting to see stores put those plastic shields up between, the register and each shopper, and then the Ziploc bag on each of the credit card machines. But in terms of the people that live around here, no masks, no gloves. And I keep having someone invite me to dinner, which is lovely. I love having dinner with her, and I'm not shaming her in any way. This is just more of how it is out here. I keep saying no, not until this social isolation is over. And people get offended. Well, I'm not going to get you sick. And I try to say, I'm being kind to you. I'm being respectful of you because I don't want to I might have it and I don't want to bring it to you and, take risks. Life's too short. And I'm like, Okay, how ignorant, but okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because it is, I mean, this is going to be a cheesy way to phrase it, but it's so much bigger than us. It's not about us. Like, at least for me, I'm somebody who's fairly healthy and could get over it, but there's a lot of privilege that goes into how it's affecting different people. Like, I have insurance. It's going to take me a while to pay off my ER bill, but I'll be able to.
Right.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, how privilege plays into it, because it's so easy to romanticize quarantine as being a time to be like hyper productive and acquire new skills, you know.
Right.
But that isn't realistic for most people, especially lower income people. And like we're seeing, especially in Southwest Colorado, we have a high Native American population, and there are exponentially higher rates of COVID on the reservation. I think Navajo Nation is at like 820 right now.
Yeah, one of our podcasters, Dr. I, she does Suicide Nation, and she lives on the Navajo reservation, and she talks about that. And there's the incidents of domestic violence because people are forced to stay home and stuff have just increased exponentially, and yet getting police to come out is very difficult because there's so many other things that they are being called to do. It's not that they don't want to come out, we're short staffed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's scary the way that it impacts. I mean, again, I'm just very lucky to be in the situation I am where I could stay home, and I'd already lost my job. So, blessing and a curse. But I was able to stay home and didn't jeopardize my job or anything like that. And I had the support system.
Yeah, I think about, that's what I think about with some of my neighbors that aren't taking this seriously for whatever reason, because you can be in this bubble out in remote places where you believe the hype of, oh, this is all fake, or, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And I happen to know 2 people that have died from this. So it's not fake. And many of my podcasters live in New York or live, in big Seattle, and live in big cities, or in Florence, Italy, as an example, and in Dublin, Ireland, and certainly taken very, very seriously there. So it's like, you don't want to say, oh, well, I hope it gets bad enough that they finally wake up and realize to take this seriously, because you don't want that. But on the other hand, the pressure that they put on you for being the lone holdout is tough.
Yeah. Thank you for being that holdout, though. We need more people like you right now.
I just can't.
It's hard.
I've loosened up on the wearing of the gloves because I immediately wash my hands and I do not touch my face. If I'm going to go get gas or there's not going to be any human interaction, then I've loosened up on that. But but the mask goes with me everywhere, and it gets microwaved, to kill whatever might be on it and all those things. But yeah, I don't know. It's just odd. It's very surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this point, I haven't left my house in 3 weeks, I think.
Wow.
Thankfully, we do live out in the country a little bit, so we can just, sit on the porch and look at the mountains, which again, great situation to be quarantined in.
Right.
But I feel like also it just is starting to set in for me that it's quarantine, because I was so sick the first 2 weeks of it that like I would have had to be home no matter what.
Right.
And now it's just figuring out how to deal with it, and also figuring out what's self-care versus like what's avoidance, and like just barely coping with it.
Right.
Which is, thankfully I have therapy in an hour, so I'll figure that out soon.
Right. Online therapy. Exactly.
Yeah, which has been great, honestly. And I just ordered some silk pajamas, so I think I'm really leaning into quarantine.
Yeah, I don't mind quarantine, but I work from home anyway and do this mostly, or consulting. So this isn't, and being in the country too, I can walk out to the pasture to be with my horse or my donkey, and not have to, worry about social distancing. So
which is lovely.
Yeah, exactly. It's, very lucky. Not more people than I are dealing with this in a much different way. So,
Right. Absolutely.
yeah. Well, talk to me about, what you're seeing as a comedian. How has the, economic impact in terms of jobs and opportunities been for you?
I mean, huge. Nothing
Yeah.
is open right now. And actually, the biggest theater in Durango, I just learned yesterday, is shutting down due to all of this, which is a big hit for all of us because we recorded a comedy album there. I actually came out on stage there. It's like a really important place to a lot of comedians here, and it's closing down because it can't handle the impact of this, which is a big bummer. So that's also going to affect it in the future as well. Also, I think it's been kind of hard for me to get anybody to be on board with an online show because they think it'll be super awkward.
Really? Even the one
Yeah.
that, well, I mean, I've had everybody say yes to the one that I'm doing, but it's for free. I haven't had anybody say, "Oh yeah, and we'll buy
Right.
tickets."
Right. Yeah. The tickets ones are hard to sell for sure. Because people are like, well, I'll just watch a Netflix special, like a comedy
Right.
special.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, I
But
don't
for the
even
most
care.
part, I haven't. For the most part, I mean, I am still in school, so comedy isn't my only form of income right now, thank goodness. I mean, I guess, again, lost my job. I was a bartender, so I guess it
Yeah.
kind of is now, but it wasn't. I can't imagine the impact that it's had on a lot of people. I've seen a lot of my friends on Facebook posting about how, they usually do like 20 shows a month, and then now they don't know what to do with themselves.
Right. Right. A lot of people are heading online, which is, I've noticed the internet fluctuations. It used to be like around 5 or 6 o'clock when people get home, and now it's like, no, it's all day long.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And my
I looked
Zoom.
at
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You go ahead. Okay. We like last night when I couldn't sleep, I looked at new couches for us online for like 2 hours, which like we don't even need a new couch. I was just like, oh, the internet's here. I might as well.
Right. I've noticed that Zoom meetings have gone from being like, maybe an inch long to now they're like 7 feet long because they have to account for all of the people using this
Right.
stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Goodness. Yeah.
What?
Honestly, one more thing that I was thinking is that even though it's tough to balance the pressures of a pandemic and being in school or really doing anything. I mean, I saw a post that said you're not working from home, you're at home during a pandemic trying to be productive, which I think is a much more accurate representation of it.
Right.
But it's been really helpful having Fort Lewis, my school right now, because I mean, the health center on campus has checked in with me every single day since I got sick. So it's been about 3 weeks now, which, considering how unavailable other doctors' offices have been, that has been such a huge source of relief for me. And the school brought me food and everything. So
Good.
Again, very thankful for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. New things will crop up. There will be new businesses that come out of this, or existing businesses that really were kind of flatlining. All of a sudden, they're booming, and then many, many, many other businesses, traditional established businesses, and even new ones that are just devastated by this.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean,
did you see that we got our stimulus check?
I saw that. I haven't gotten mine, but mine will have to be paper. I don't have, I always pay. Historically, I have always paid taxes, so they don't have my direct deposit. They just send me a bill.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, that's not as fun.
And what is our president going to do when the stimulus checks that get deposited into your account don't have his signature on them because they're electronic? He's going to be so bummed.
Well, isn't that most of what took so long too, is what I've heard?
Yes.
That he wanted to have a signature. Oh my gosh. Priorities,
Yeah. Okay, let's get into our marketing one more time. If they see my name, they'll think money and Trump. He needs to stay in office. That's complete. That's a whole other show, but yeah, it's
Whole other. Yeah, I'm like, I'm ready, but.
yeah, exactly.
So I'm excited now to have 1,201 penny in my bank account.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. There's the couch.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was looking, I think, because I got excited.
Well, Allie, thank you so much for taking the time out to come on.
Of course.
Frank and I were both so worried about you. I said, "Oh my gosh, I was getting ready to do a call with her, and then she emailed and said she's on her way to the ER. Now I haven't heard from her in a few days. Oh no, oh no, oh no." And so he was frantically texting me screenshots of what you and he were chatting that yes, she's alive, she is okay. So I'm glad that that you got through it and that you're home and okay.
Yeah, it was I'm lucky that I had so many people checking up on me that it was a little overwhelming, to respond to everybody. It's a good problem to have, though.
Exactly. It makes you realize, wow, I really am blessed. So those anxiety in the middle of the night or during the day, anxiety attacks that we can all have of nobody loves me, you have to remember, oh wait, a lot of people were checking in on me during the COVID
It was like too much. Yeah.
Well, tell my listeners where they can find you and find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see my TED Talk titled Embracing Failure on TEDx, or you can go to my Facebook page, just Allie Wolfe, or there's a comedy album called Durango is Funny. It's on Spotify, iTunes, all the major networks, and you'll see my track down there at the bottom.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for taking the time to come on.
Of course. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Hi, listeners. I'll make it quick. These are some really cool places that give discounts and other cool things for listeners of Mental Health News Radio Network. If you want to get amazing help with healing from narcissistic abuse, go to healfromanarcissist.com. If you want CBD products that are the best of the best, I use them myself, go to Proze, PROZE.com, and use the code mentalhealth20, mentalhealth20. If you want to get daily perk ups that help retrain your brain to think more positively, go to perkupdaily.com. And also, just because this one's fun, snarkycandles.com. I guarantee you'll love them. Snarky with a Y, SNARKY candles.com. And don't forget, if you want to hear all the shows on the network about first responders, you can go to firstrespondermentalhealthnetwork.com, and all of our shows that focus on narcissistic abuse, narcissistabusehealingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and back to the show.
Sometimes I'm passive aggressive, but never without good intentions. I heat up and act on my emotions.
Thanks so much for listening to Mental Health News Radio. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and hundreds of other podcast apps, or you can visit our website at mentalhealthnewsradio.com. If you have a question or would like to be a guest, become a podcaster on our network, or join the amazing organizations that help keep us on the air, please email us at info@mhnrnetwork.com. Get ready for that special goodbye from our resident therapy dog, Miles, and a special thanks to Emily Sohn for letting us use her incredible song, Cordial, for our podcast music. Listen to the full song on SoundCloud at emily.sonne.
Don't be surprised when I don't hate on you. After all, we promised we'd be cordial. Sometimes in you I can fight it.
Good boy.